Good morning. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Hudson. My name is Marilyn Orr, President of the club, and we are thrilled to have you join us today. This meeting broadcast is available on HCTV, as well as our Rotary of Hudson YouTube channel and Facebook. Our club meets weekly using this digital platform, Zoom. When we meet in person, it's at Laurel Lake Retirement Community for breakfast. We hope to get back to that soon. We meet most Wednesday mornings from 7:15 to 8:30 a.m. So come out to join us for a meeting. We would love to have you as a guest. To learn more about Rotary, our club, and the impact we are having on our local community and the world, please visit our website, rotaryhudson.org. So enjoy this meeting today and help us share the message that Rotary opens doors of opportunity.
We're ready to go.
Okay, good morning, Rotarians and guests. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Hudson. It's good to see everyone again. Our invocation this morning is by Bill Wooldridge.
Hey, Ron, I don't see Bill there. He's supposed to do it.
Somebody told me he was going to. You
I
did.
know. He told me he would be on, but I just disappeared.
Do you have a spare one, or should we ask Father Joe to maybe step in?
We'll bring in the professional.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go.
Okay, good. Thank you, Father.
Let's pray. Almighty God, we come into your presence this day grateful for a new opportunity to enjoy life, to enjoy your presence, and to be ministers to one another. We ask that you would make us mindful of your presence, mindful of the needs of others around us, and always eager to do your will. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Father Joe.
Mm-hmm.
And to lead us in the pledge and four-way test this morning, Mimi Becker.
I'm waiting for the flag. Okay. Would you join me in the pledge, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now for the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mimi. And now our president, Marilyn Orr.
Good morning, Rotarians. I hope you're all doing well. It's interesting to see that school has changed for our kids a couple of weeks before it's going to break for the Christmas vacation. I'll be home tutoring a kindergartner today, and so that promises to be interesting. Immediately after today's Zoom meeting, the club board will be holding its monthly board meeting. Any active member is encouraged to attend. It's anticipated that the meeting will conclude by 9:30 this morning. I'd also like to report that the scholarship donation drive is completed, and we raised a total of $4,275. Included in that total are a number of memorial donations made in honor of Tom Page by members of this club as well as the community. I want to give a special thank you to Dottie and to her sons for making this possible. This year, the scholarships awarded by this club will be named the Tom Page Memorial Scholarships, and we will invite Dottie and his family to that club meeting where the scholarship winners are honored and introduced. That's always one of my favorite meetings, where we have them introduce their favorite teacher, someone who was really meaningful to them. Okay, so we're about ready to see if everyone is here. I see we've got Bob on the phone, but here he comes. Okay, I'm going to turn this over to, I believe, is it going to be George this morning or John who will do the introduction?
Well, I have the bio here if you want me to.
Oh, absolutely. Let's go.
Okay. Hey, welcome, Bob.
Good morning, everyone.
And you guys remember from last year, well, every year Bob shows up, and a little bit of background behind him is Bob will be in his 42nd season this year with the Cleveland Indians and his 43rd in Major League Baseball in 2021. He started with the Tribe in 1979 as assistant PR director. He was named the PR director in 1980 and vice president of PR in 1988. The Lakewood, Ohio native was promoted to his current position in 2011. His lone season away from the Tribe was 1987, when he served as PR chief for the Atlanta Braves. Bob serves as president of Cleveland Indians Charities. He's an honorary member of the executive board of the Boys and Girls Clubs of Cleveland, serves on the Athletic Advisory Board of Notre Dame College in Ohio, and is a member of the board of directors of the Cuyahoga County Public Library Foundation, the Bob Feller Act of Valor Foundation, and the Baseball Heritage Museum at Lake Park. Bob is the host of the popular Indians Alumni Roundtable show on Sports Time Ohio, as well as Tribe Tales, a Where Are They Now segment that airs pregame every Sunday on the Indians radio network. He was the 1999 recipient of the prestigious Robert O. Fischel Award for Public Relations Excellence in Major League Baseball. He was inducted into the Lakewood High School Distinguished Alumni Hall of Fame in 1999. In 1986, Bob was named the Public Relations Director to Sports Illustrated's Dream Team. Bob graduated from Lakewood High School in 1973. He earned degrees in journalism and education from Ohio Wesleyan University in 1977. While at Ohio Wesleyan, Bob was sports editor of the school paper, The Transcript, the student sports information director, and did color on Ohio Wesleyan University football and basketball broadcasts. Bob also played 1 year of basketball and 2 years of baseball at Ohio Wesleyan. In 1978, he earned his master's degree in journalism from the Ohio State University, and started a stint as assistant sports editor of the Fremont, Ohio News Messenger before joining the Indians. Bob and his wife Penny reside in Solon, Ohio. They have 2 adult children, daughter Julie, married to Matt, and son Patrick, married to Liz. And Bob, it's always great to have you here, and thanks for agreeing to do this again this year.
Well, thank you, Mr. Lang. That was way more than you needed to do this morning, but good morning, everyone. Appreciate you going through that bio there. Hopefully you have a lot of questions. We could talk baseball and then just give me the high sign when it's time to move on. I love the fact there are a few of you out there wearing your Tribe gear, so thank you. I love your backdrop there, Mr. Lang. It's beautiful progressive field with people in the stands. Hopefully we'll be
right.
Yeah, hopefully we'll be able to see that scenario coming up here in 2021.
For sure.
This past season was one for the ages, of course. It's remarkable, I have to admit, incredibly proud of everyone involved at the Cleveland Indians organization that we were able to get through a 60-game baseball season during a pandemic where we did not live in a bubble. we put a tremendous amount of effort into making sure that our players and staff were put into a very safe environment, and the dedication and discipline that our athletes showed to get through a 60-game schedule and a 3-week second spring training. And unfortunately, we didn't have much of an October, but we were poised to be able to put ourselves in a position to play in October deep once again. You know, we came away with our 8th straight winning season. Obviously, as you've heard me say, it coincides with the fact that Terry Francona joined us 8 seasons ago. He is just one of the most remarkable guys, even despite the fact that his health kept him away from the ball club for most of this 60-game season. And we're fortunate to have somebody like a Sandy Alomar in the wings to take over and be a leader, which he was throughout the whole 90s run, was the true leader of that renaissance of Indians baseball. Just always circle back to how proud we were of the discipline that our players and staff showed to get through a season. We just finished the awards portion, most of the awards portion of the postseason, and we fared pretty well in that regard. An indication that we, no matter how we maneuver our roster, no matter how President of Baseball Operations Chris Antonetti and GM Mike Chernoff, the issues that they face each and every season to try to construct and build a championship caliber baseball team, they find a way to do it. And we, again, had our 8th straight winning season. We were in the postseason for the 4th time in 5 years. Terry Francona is just such a special guy. And again, despite the fact that he was, we needed to make sure that he took care of himself this year. With his health issues and his age, he was in an at-risk category that just didn't make sense to throw him into the bucket that we were involved with. People often ask me about Terry Francona and what makes him such a remarkable leader. And I point always to 3 things that I think are pretty consistent with most excellent leaders, whether you're what industry you happen to be in. Leadership is important in all of them, obviously, and the characteristics of a leader. I think Tito does 3 things that are most remarkable about his leadership abilities. One, he's authentic. If you are not genuine, if you try to be somebody that you are not, all of a sudden you become a leader and you become somebody that you are not. People will see right through that, and the trust factor will just go away. He's very genuine. He's very authentic. Players love him. He loves them back. Not just the players, but the staff and everyone who works in our service level. The lower level of our ballpark is where the clubhouse is. He knows everybody's names. I mean, he knows all the guys, the HVAC guys, the maintenance crew, security. He makes it a point to appreciate everybody in our organization. The one thing that he does, which I think is pretty interesting from a sports perspective, because there was a time in the world of sports that every player had to be a clone of each other, that they had to act, talk, walk, perform the same way, that it was almost an army kind of mentality that, everybody had to march in order. And that doesn't mean that Terry doesn't have rules, and he actually only has two. One is obviously respect the game of baseball and your teammates, and be professional. And that means showing up on time, take care of your body, be a good teammate, etc. But he embraces individuality. You watch our games and you see a whole different way about players go about doing their thing. The individual personality of each and every guy is what he truly embraces. That he understands, being a former player himself. He was a number 1 draft pick there you go, Mr. Field. I like that backdrop there, baby. That he understood, that what's inside a guy, it's not all the same. What drives people, and you must embrace that. And the fact that we had 5 different countries represented in our clubhouse just this year alone. And that brings a whole set of issues, cultural issues, fashion, music, food, just language. And how do you bring all those cultures together is a pretty amazing thing. And he does it by embracing each and everybody's individuality. And the last thing he does, which I think is the most important aspect of leadership, is service to others. There's a tendency for leaders to, once they get into that role, that they try to go for that leadership role because A, it may make me more money, and B, it may be a position where I get to boss people around, or I get to blame others if things don't go right, whatever the odd reasons that people will become leaders. Service to others is one of the key elements to leadership. You're there to inspire other people to be great. And Tito goes about that every single day. Again, he loves his players, his coaches, the clubhouse staff. We're blessed to continue to have him. His health is getting better. I just spoke to him yesterday about an issue. There's Mr. Lang has my email address. So any of you who are lifelong Clevelanders, who Rocky Colavito might have been your childhood hero, we're in the midst of doing a statue fundraising project. There's an effort going on to get a statue of Rocky Colavito down in Little Italy on Mayfield Road in Cleveland. And if you want to get more, you could Google Rocky Colavito statue project, or just get from Mr. Lang my email address, and you can email me directly, and I'll get you the information if you want to, participate through a brick paver kind of scenario. All different sorts, starts at $125 and goes up to as much as $5,000 for a larger granite plaque on a wall. You might be wondering, as I mentioned this, why isn't Rocky's statue at Progressive Field? We have criteria in place. As much as I would love to have Rocky's statue at Progressive Field, he was my hero growing up, certainly a generational hero for Indians fans. our criteria is being inducted. The first primary criteria is you have to be inducted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame. So Mr. Feller and Mr. Doby, Mr. Boudreau, and Jim Thome, all in the Baseball Hall of Fame with statues outside our building. So I'm involved in the project. David Deming, who did Mr. Doby, Boudreau, and Jim Thome statues, is doing the Rocky Colavito statue, and I've had a chance to see it. It's phenomenal. So I talked to him about that project yesterday, and Tito's health is good. He's back out playing a little bit of golf. He has a personal trainer for the first time in his life. So he's got somebody kicking him, keeping him going, and we fully expect him to be in Goodyear when everything starts in mid-February, which we are planning. Those of you who are in business obviously know how difficult it could be to try to plan your 2021 budgets and business plans. We're doing it as if it's 2019. We're full bore ahead budget-wise, business planning-wise. It's the only way we can do it. Plan for the best case scenario and then have to whittle down from there if certain things dictate that we can only have 10% of capacity of fans in the ballpark or 20% at the beginning, and then open it up to everybody as the summer moves on. And that obviously deals with a whole lot of different issues. One being state law, one being whether the vaccination is going to be in order and how do we play with that. So a lot of variables. The one thing we do know is we're in a better foundation to be able to handle this scenario, having gone through what we did in 2020. As I mentioned, the postseason awards just were announced tonight at 7. We'll find out if the All-NBA team, Mr. Jose Ramirez and our friend Shane Bieber will continue to rack up their awards. Excuse me there, I need a little sip. My morning tea. Shane Bieber had a remarkable year this year. Cy Young Award, won the Triple Crown of pitching. Just a remarkable story. Shane Bieber is a kid who was a walk-on in college, if you can think about that. And we had a scout in that neck of the woods that saw him play and pitch and loved the way he attacked the strike zone. Always a strike thrower. Thought he'd get bigger and stronger as he got older. Next thing you know, you put a young man like that in the position with professional strength and conditioning people, professional coaching. He walks into a clubhouse and sees a 2-time Cy Young Award winner, Corey Kluber, do his thing, and he's a puppy dog following Corey Kluber around wherever he went all day long, every day, learning the most important aspects of pitching are the 4 days you do not pitch. How do you prepare yourself to be the best you can be on the day that you do pitch? He did it all the right way. How to attack the new age of video work, in addition to the bullpen work and the weight training and the nutrition and all the things that we try to do in our holistic approach to making our guys the best they can be. And Shane Bieber just, again, had one of those remarkable seasons. Those of you who may not know what the Triple Crown of pitching is, it means you were the best in baseball at the most wins, the most strikeouts, and the lowest earned run average. And the last time a Cleveland Indian pitcher won the Triple Crown of pitching was Bob Feller back in 1940. So just what Shane did, absolutely remarkable. He's a kid that He'll be in our uniform another 4 or 5 years, and hopefully more than that. And, he's the anchor of our staff, and pitching has led us the last 8 years to winning seasons, and we don't expect that to be any different. Jose Ramirez, it's amazing what this young guy, little guy does. Jose Abreu, the Chicago White Sox won the MVP award for the American League. Jose Ramirez came in second. Abreu, I think, is 6'5", 250, somewhere in there. And Jose is maybe 5'11", 185 pounds. It just shows you the game of baseball. The game of baseball is going to be played by people of all shapes and sizes. And it's all a matter of what's inside, and your hand-eye coordination, and your drive and intensity. And Jose has been one of our top players, obviously, for a number of years. He's the only guy in big league baseball who has finished in the top 3 finalists for a league MVP 3 times in the last 4 years. No other player in baseball has done that. Not Mike Trout. It's just remarkable what Jose has been able to do. So how he goes, we go. Last year, or 2019, when he started to get hot in June, we had a 60-game stretch where he got hotter than a firecracker. And we went 47-13 in a 60-game stretch because he got on fire. So how he goes, we go. And again, another terrific season by him. We had Roberto Perez win his second straight Gold Glove. The team itself was rated the best defensive baseball team in the American League last year. Brand new team Gold Glove award, never been awarded before. They came up with that one, and we were the winner of the inaugural team Gold Glove. So we pitched the ball, we catch the ball. We just didn't hit the ball this year. We had guys that just weren't able to get the rhythm going for whatever reason during this 60-game stretch. A couple of those guys, Carlos Santana, who just signed with the Kansas City Royals for 2 years. He'll be 35 years old at the start of the 2021 season. Gave us 9+ seasons of terrific baseball. Number 2 all-time franchise guy in walks. He came to play every day, and we thank him for everything he did. It's time for us at first base to turn it over to one of the young guys to see if they can become our new first baseman, the Bobby Bradleys, Jake Bauer, maybe Josh Naylor. We've got some candidates there. I see in the chat room that I saw 2. Let's click on it and see. Well, the first 2 were about Frankie, who did not have a very good year in 2020 for whatever reason. Didn't run the bases very well, didn't hit very well, distracted maybe. I don't know what the reasoning, but he wasn't himself, and he was the first to admit it. And it's just one of those oddities. Some guys were able to perform in the unique setting that they were thrust into, and others just never found their rhythm. And I think Frankie, unfortunately, at the plate just never found his rhythm. He certainly played great defense. Whether or not he's going to be in an Indians uniform, you've read as much as I have that there's an opportunity that the trade market might open up, and he will be a part of it. the general managers, while the winter meetings are going on virtually right now, this is the time of year when they would all be in the same hotel, talking business, and then deals like this get done. So we'll have to wait and see. He has one more year under contract, the 2021 season, to play for the Cleveland Indians, and then he becomes a free agent. After the 2021 season, there's going to be, I think, 5 premier shortstops on the market in baseball. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens, how the chess pieces flow throughout the game of baseball. The kid that was the MVP for the Dodgers in the World Series, Seager, he's a free agent. Correa in Houston, Trevor Story over in Colorado, a couple others that premier at that position. Baseball's blessed to have an incredible number of remarkable young shortstops. And so how long we'll be in an Indians uniform, I cannot answer that. We continue to try to find a way in negotiations to see if there's that number that is respectful to Frankie. He saw what Mookie Betts of the Dodgers signed for last year, close to $35 million a year for 10 years. I just don't know if we can play in that ballpark and still put a team on the field. There's 24 other guys that make up a winning baseball team. So the Dodgers can get away with it in the major markets. That's just the economic reality of baseball today. So that's going to be an interesting one for us. The one question, do you expect the season to start on time? Right now, that's a hard question to answer, but we're proceeding as if everybody's coming to spring training in mid-February. I think one of the things that we're planning is a staggered start for our athletes in spring training, so we don't thrust 125 players and staff into our state-of-the-art complex in Goodyear on the same day. It just makes sense to stagger people to come in. We do that anyway. Traditionally, pitchers and catchers report early, and then position players come in, and people were able to come in whenever they wanted. A lot of guys show up and rent their houses in Goodyear in January and show up to the complex every day beginning in January, even though spring training doesn't start until mid-February. But I think there's a plan in place to limit the number of people who have access to the inside of the building, and also stagger the access. So we expect to play a full spring training schedule. Don't know the laws off the top of my head in Arizona. We'll have to brush up on that to see whether or not people can gather for sporting events in Goodyear for spring training according to state law. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. But yeah, I think we right now are expecting to start the season, and it's the only way we can go about it. And then we have to be versatile, flexible as we move forward. But as I said earlier, we have a foundation that we just went through in the 2020 season, is how to get through a very unique scenario and keep people safe and healthy through all of that. Why did we struggle in the playoffs, Mr. Field? I don't know. You can take that backdrop down now for asking that question. That's a good question. I mean, a guy like Shane Bieber had a remarkable season, and then for some reason struggled with the strike zone first time seeing a team he hadn't faced all year, obviously a good hitting team in the Yankees. That's a good question. Our last efforts, other than 16, of course, getting to Game 7, extra innings of the World Series, we haven't fared very well. We just don't hit for some reason, and that's something that we need to certainly get rolling, because we have the pitching to carry us deep into October, and why we just aren't able to get it done is something that our guys keeps us up at night. I tell you, it gives you time for a lot of reflection on that one. Who will be in the outfield this year? That's another good question. We just haven't. Last year, I mean, we rolled a bunch of people out and nobody took to it. There's a saying in baseball that the players make the decisions. When you sit there and go, okay, who should I play in left field? This guy or that guy? Well, the player who plays the best gets the opportunity. And we just didn't have anybody stand up. I'm thinking that Oscar Mercado is going to get an opportunity to do what he did in 2019 and take over center field. And I think, unfortunately, that young man struggled with the 60-game scenario, and to a tune of that we had to send him to Lake County because he struggled so much, and then brought him back. You might see a number of platoon scenarios in our outfield. Whether how to get Jordan Luplow out there on a regular basis. He absolutely dominates left-handed pitching. So do we find somebody, a left-handed hitter, who can dominate right-handed pitching and put them as a platoon in right field? Nolan Jones is our number one prospect in our organization, a former number one draft pick who came out of high school as a shortstop. We moved him over to third base, which has done an awful lot. A lot of the best young athletes in high school play shortstop, but when they advance into the pro ranks, they move to other positions. Rick Manning was another one of those number one draft picks who was a shortstop who played a pretty darn good center field. So we've had Nolan Jones in the fall playing left field, right field, a little bit of first base. We'll have to wait and see, but that kid's ability to hit and be what we think is a true impact player. It's time for him to try to get some big league action, whether it'll be in April or sometime during the year. If things go according to Hoyle and there's a AAA season, well, maybe he'll have to dabble in AAA for the first time. Josh Naylor, who played incredibly well in October, acquired from the Padres during 2020, will have a chance to either play first or the outfield. It's going to be interesting to see how we piece together an outfield because that's a deficiency. There's no question about it. We're not a perfect baseball team. How we can go become like the pitching ninja team of all of baseball. People are very jealous of how we can lose a Corey Kluber, a Mike Clevenger, and a Trevor Bauer, and then still have one of the best rotations in all of baseball and have the Cy Young Award winner. Because our guys just know how to churn out young pitchers. We just have a remarkable ability to teach these young men, again, the whole approach to attacking the strike zone and being confident on the mound and doing it the right way. So outfield is definitely a concern. Piecing together a bullpen, we do that every year. I think every team pieces together a bullpen, and we did it again this past year. Brad Hand was terrific for us He's a free agent, and we'll see where he ends up. But we've got some guys. The guy that you saw this past year, James Karinchak, despite his performance in that one game against the Yankees, unfortunately, he had only given up one home run throughout the 2020 60 game season. An incredible strikeout guy to walk ratio. Has a chance to be an incredibly dominant back end of the bullpen guy with a guy named Emmanuel Clase, who we got in the Corey Kluber trade, who unfortunately didn't play this past year because of PEDs. But he played in the Dominican. He played in our fall league and was throwing 100 miles an hour again, attacking the strike zone, and has a chance to do some wonderful things. How do some of the major league teams pay these guys the kind of money? Yeah, it's the industry lost, as the commissioner said, billions of dollars. And that means each team lost, if you do the math, $100 million. And how do we continue on from a business perspective? I can share with you that ticket sales and concessions command about 44% of our revenue. And so we didn't have any of that. And so we had to take out a pretty hefty loan. We had to do a lot of scrubbing of our budgets, made some very difficult decisions to handle the operational expenses of the franchise so we can move forward. It's going to take us a number of years to come out of this, as it will all the baseball teams. Now, the teams in the major markets who get the major TV contracts, they're put in a little bit different position. And again, that's just an economic reality. It's not an excuse. We can put a team on the field that can compete with anybody on any given year. They just have an opportunity to make more mistakes and cover up their mistakes because of their revenue generation. So it's not easy. So we have to rely on our young players and our player development system as we move into 2021 and beyond. But we have one of the top farm systems in baseball, a whole lot of young athletes, especially under the age of 21, that are incredibly highly regarded. So we feel good about the position that we're in. The retirement of Chief Wahoo, there were rumors the Indians were considering a name change, and there is truth to that. I will tell you that we are in deep discussion with many on a name change for this franchise. Whether that comes to be, we'll see. But we're in discussions. We're in discussions with, and that's one of the things that we wanted to be upfront about, that we needed to learn and listen before we made a definitive decision. I mean, it's just good, sound business. A good philosophical approach in anyone's life or anyone's business is listening and learning before you act. And that's the process that we're in. We're listening and learning from the Native American community, locally and nationally. We're listening to other community leaders. We're listening to our fans. I think we put out to about 9,000 of our fans, season ticket holders, a survey. We're listening to other leading researchers, business leaders, nonprofits in our community. And it's been very interesting hearing what is coming. So nothing definitive as of yet. But yeah, no question that to answer your question, is it being debated? It certainly is, and we've been very upfront about that. Sandy Alomar becoming a major league manager. There's times when I talk to Sandy that he's got such an incredible burning desire to win a World Series in a Cleveland Indians uniform. I mean, this guy loves putting on our uniform. As I said earlier, Carlos Baerga might have been the emotional leader of that team. Kenny Lofton and Albert and Eddie were just the intense athletes. Omar, the flashy athlete. But there was one true leader that when he spoke in that clubhouse, everybody shut up and listened. And that was Sandy Alomar. And so to have him be able to lead this team, as Tito mentioned in a postseason press gathering, he was very shocked that Sandy didn't get any phone calls for managerial interview. And one of these days, but I do think, honestly, deep down, Sandy wants to win here before he goes off and does something else. But a remarkable guy. What happens when owners pass? Who will take over? If you're asking if they move on, if all of a sudden an owner passes away, I don't know if you're thinking Larry Dolan, who's in his 80s, but Paul Dolan has run this team, I think, from day one that his dad bought the team. Paul Dolan, who in his early 60s is the chairman and CEO and owner of our franchise. We lost a minority owner who became the owner of the Kansas City Royals. And there's a scenario in place where that minority ownership needs to be replaced. So, and oddly, in the way the business is run, it's the duty of John Sherman, who was our minority owner and now the majority owner of the Kansas City Royals. It's his responsibility and duty to find somebody to replace his investment. It's not Paul Dolan's role, although he's involved as we get to approve whoever he finds. So that scenario's happen. Will Bradley Zimmer ever live up to his potential? You're right, Jim. That's a question that we need answered, because here's a young man that number one draft pick. He's had a horrible injury, just a horrible injury. When he ran into the wall at Yankee Stadium trying to make that catch, it just blew up his shoulder. His shoulder exploded, and they pieced him back together. And it took him a while to get healthy and do baseball things. He's changed his batting stance. He learned early, pitchers learned early, I should say, that he could not hit the inside high fastball. And so that's all he was given. Those of you who remember Corey Snyder, who couldn't stay away from swinging at a low outside breaking ball. I mean, these pitchers, they find that one thing a hitter cannot do, and they will attack it every time you come to the plate. And so Bradley Zimmer needs to work at just shortening his swing, putting the bat on the ball. A lot of guys get too home run happy because of the analytics in the game. There's good parts to that and bad parts to that. the analytics of the game. And I think one of the bad parts of the analytics is guys don't care. You know, anybody out here, you all remember, what did your coach tell you when you were playing Little League when you got 2 strikes? Choke up and hit it somewhere. There's no such thing as choke it up anymore. It's swing for the fences. And that's what analytics tell you. If there's a shift on, don't hit the ball or bunt it to the other way. Hit it over their heads into the seats. That's the way they're taught in today's world. Always a discussion about that as we move forward in this game of ours. So pretty interesting how one guy in our industry, Theo Epstein, who, you know, was the leader of the Red Sox, took them to a World Series first time in 80 years. Unfortunately, he was the leader of the Cubs when they beat us in the World Series, and he just retired of sorts from the Cubs. He's now, but he said he wanted to do something in the game of baseball. Wasn't quite sure what, but one of the interesting things that he said, I was the cause of the analytics playing such a role in the game of baseball, where there are more strikeouts than hits. There isn't as much action. Players are swinging for the fences, even with 2 strikes. He goes, I'm not sure I like that, even though I benefited from it, taking 2 teams to the World Series. He goes, I just don't know deep down as a fan of the game if I like that. And what can I do to help change the philosophy of the game of baseball? So it's interesting that a guy in that position would walk away from his duties and then focus on something like that. So we'll see if Theo has where he might end up to be able to put that thought process into place. The change, sorry about that. There's one change in baseball that I just want to touch on. And so anybody else has any more questions, fire them in the chat room. But one thing I want to talk about, there's a change in the structure of Major League Baseball with regards to minor league baseball. Baseball made the decision that there will only be 120 minor league affiliates, meaning each of the 30 teams are only allowed 4 minor league teams, part of a competitive balance issue. For those who may not know, we had 5 minor league teams, plus 2 in the Dominican Republic, in the Dominican League, where we have the finest facility for the young men in that part of the world of any baseball team. Our owner invested about $8 million a few years ago in building the very best state-of-the-art facility. So any kid in Venezuela, Puerto Rico, the Dominican, Panama, that area, they want to wear a Cleveland Indians uniform and get to our complex. They're put in a position unlike any other team, and all 30 teams have academies scattered throughout the Dominican, and we have the very, very best. We had 2 teams in the Arizona Fall League, and then the 5th minor league team was over in Mahoning Valley, which we no longer are going to be affiliated with. Just so you know, like the New York Yankees had 10 minor league teams because they could afford to do so. 200 and some athletes involved in the Cleveland Indians organization. Most people just think of the 26-man roster that's in play now and the guys play in Cleveland. But again, you have teams at AAA in Columbus and AA in Akron. As a matter of fact, Lake County is going from low A to high A. And our team in Lynchburg is going from high A to low A. So you have two representatives in the Class A league where the youngsters play, and then they graduate to AA in Akron, and then AAA Columbus, and then hopefully into a Cleveland Indians uniform. The one reason, again, baseball chose to go away from letting teams have as many as they wanted was a competitive balance issue. The other reason for us and many of the teams discussed a team like Mahoning Valley, they only play half a season. So it was when you had a draft in June, the kids who were coming out of high school and college who signed would all report to Goodyear, Arizona, and we could get them all in one place and work them out for a week or so. And then they'd go and play in Mahoning Valley. Well, after we did this for a number of years, our baseball people stopped and said, hey, what if we just kept everybody in Goodyear and didn't play a half a season? I mean, all these college kids that we drafted just played an incredible season that started in the fall. All these high school kids that you draft, they're not just playing 13 high school baseball games in the North. These are kids, majority of them coming from Florida and Carolinas and Texas, Arizona, California, who play 60, 80 games in high school, and the showcase games because they're that good that they're being considered to be drafted. They're playing in showcase tournaments all the time. So they've got in a ton of baseball for that year. So why don't we just keep them in Goodyear at our state-of-the-art facility and let our strength and conditioning coaches get after them? Let our nutritionists get after these young men and teach them what the right fuel is needed to keep your body the best it can be, and put them in front of our pitching instructors and our hitting coaches. And they dabble and play the Reds, who are a half a mile down the street, and play the White Sox and Dodgers from farm teams that are, 10-minute drive away. That really, I think, was the main reason why the short season team was let go and is part of affiliations. Now, Mahoning Valley is part of what this thing is called the Dream League, is where they will get, Mahoning Valley will still get the same number of games played in their community in that ball field, but it won't be an affiliation to big league team. It's an affiliation with Major League Baseball. So the young men who are on the bubble of whether or not they're going to get drafted, or they had an injury and they need to go and play, these high school and college kids will be able to play competitive baseball in a league where all the scouts will show up. And every one of these facilities, for example, Mahoning Valley, we already invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in video equipment, robotic cameras in that facility when they were our affiliates, so that when we could get videotape of all of our at-bats and pitching and all of that. So all MLB scouting will have it available for people on video. The scouts will have a concentric area to go watch these young men. And then the draft shifts from June to July during the All-Star break. And you've got a scenario where a lot of the communities weren't left behind. Now there will be some communities, unfortunately, left behind. There are two main issues that baseball presented minor league organization with. There's a group out of St. Petersburg, Florida, that run the minor leagues. And there's a contract between the big leagues and the minor leagues. And there's certain elements of the contract, such as the lights have to be of a certain standard that guys can see the baseball at night. We don't want 12-hour bus rides for our athletes and play the next day. So that was part of some leagues and teams just dismissed Major League Baseball in the contract. Said, we don't have to live up to this. Our fields don't have to be at the level you think they should be. Our lights will determine if the lights are good enough, not Major League Baseball. Will determine what a strength and conditioning area means. We'll determine what nutrition is for our athletes because there were stringent issues in the contract that some just said no to. And so baseball finally held their feet to the fire and said, look, you're not living up to the contract. And so therefore we can't move on in this manner. Now there's many organizations in minor league baseball who live up to it above and beyond the letter of the contract and have great relationships. Ours in Akron and Columbus and in Lake County and in Lynchburg are terrific working relationships. It's an interesting process. And the biggest issue was compensation for the minor league players. Their work conditions and their compensation are going to be much greater than they are currently. So we're in a much better position foundationally than we've ever been. So I know I've gone on probably more than I should.
Yeah, Bob, I was going to ask, can you go an hour longer? We have a board meeting. Some of the guys that are not on the board would love to hear you more.
You're absolutely right, Jim. I'm certain that everyone would love this to go on another hour. It's absolutely fascinating. And I know that when you increase the pay for some of those minor league players, that's going to make life a whole lot easier for those guys. I mean, for some of them, I know that they were living with families simply to try to save some cost.
Right.
And so this is terrific. Really terrific and actually very forward thinking. So again, we are just delighted for what you've brought us this morning.
Well, thank you.
Hey,
It's
Bob,
always, again, it's the first one that I do that makes me feel like the next baseball season has begun. So it's been a tradition. I'm glad we were able to do it via Zoom. Next year, hope to see you over at Laurel Lake in person.
Hey, Bob, one other thing, maybe during the All-Star break, you can do it again for us.
Sure. No, I'd be happy to. Absolutely. Yeah. You let me know.
All right.
All right. We'll be in touch. Thank you, everybody. Go Tribe.
Well, I'll tell you, one of the highlights of my husband's life was actually meeting Bob Feller.
Ah, wonderful.
Oh, I'm telling you, he was so excited, and he had baseball signed for each of our.
That's him right there. That's his picture right there with Joe DiBiasio. Bob Feller gave me that picture. It's autographed by Joe and Bob, and he presented me that picture on my birthday one year. And one of my prized possessions.
Absolutely, and I can see that it holds a position of honor in your house as well, as it should.
Yep.
Okay, so next week, this is going to be the last meeting of our year. We're going to be having the election of our officers for the Rotary year 2021-22. And it's also going to be the final program for Sports Month. So our speaker is going to be Mike Ostrowski. Mike is a member of the Cleveland Cavaliers leadership team and is chief operating officer of the Cavs 2 franchise operations, the Cleveland Monsters hockey team and the Canton Charge basketball team. So he's going to speak about the business of professional sports. So we'll close as we always do with this day in history. In 1851, the first YMCA in North America was established, not in the United States, but in Montreal. In 1868, the very first traffic lights were installed outside the Palace of Westminster in London, and they were designed to resemble railway signals. And they used semaphone arms and were illuminated at night by red and green gas lamps. And then lastly, in 1979, the eradication of the smallpox virus was certified, making smallpox the first of only 2 diseases that have been driven to extinction. Rinderpest in 2011 was being the other. So again, we will be closing our meeting now and as soon as we reassemble, get a cup of coffee and we'll start our board meeting. Thank you, everyone. Great program, Jim Lang. Appreciate you putting this together for us.
Always my pleasure. Thanks, Marilyn.
Sure. Yeah, he's always wonderful.
Yeah, have a good day,
Oh,
everyone.
Yep, we learn a lot.